I guess we're gonna get started. It's 10:29. We want to stay on track, and we actually have a lot of staff and folks to cycle through here. I will say from the start, we are not going to be discussing budgets. So if you only came for the budget session, you can get on a whole session. This is a meet and greet, meet who's in research and creative activity and which units we run and what services we offer in each of the units. I'll be up here for about 5 or 6 minutes, so this should actually move pretty quickly. So we have research development, that's myself. We're known as pre-award. We have strategic research initiatives, which is more outwardly facing. Innovation and economic development, that's essentially how to work with industry and partnerships. And here at NDSU, there's this weird nomenclature of the NDSU Research Foundation, commonly known as tech transfer in every other place in the country. So if you're looking for tech transfer, it's the Research Foundation, NDSU. Research integrity, security, and compliance, which almost all of you will interact with if you're doing anything human subjects, biosafety, IACUC, animals, that kind of stuff. And then our beloved sponsor programs administration team, which makes everything happen. Well, I'm up first, so I'll just tell you the services that myself and my colleague, Sean Mahoney, who couldn't be here today, these are the things that we do and we offer. So finding funding, that's sort of out of the gate. If you're new to NDSU and you either, maybe you brought research funding or you didn't, but you're interested in, this is what I do, who funds this kind of work? We can generally help you with that. There are online tools that we might point you to, but we also will sit down, have coffee and listen to you and, you know, help you figure out which agency or which foundation might be most appropriate for your work. We run the internal limited submission programs. And so right here, I'm going to make a pitch for the RCA newsletter. So RCA, this is another acronym in your SUS. This is research and creative activity. You'll also hear people refer to it as ARCA. We put out a newsletter during the academic year, it comes twice a month. Please scan it. It will have all the information you need for these limited submission programs, plus a lot of other information around internal funding programs, external funding programs that we're highlighting, agency guidelines, really great stories about successful researchers on campus and other good information. So please scan it. You know, we're trying to make it streamlined and efficient so you can look at titles and say, this is applicable to me, it's not. But so limited submission programs are when the feds put out something where they say only one application per institution or 2 or 4, whatever it might be. Then we have to run a little mini internal competition here at NDSU and intake proposals, smaller versions, right? So we run this announcement in the ARCA newsletter that says, please notify us if you intend to compete for this thing. And that you'll get put on a list. We will add you to the list of people. Then we'll send out a link that says ready, set, go. Submit your internal proposal. We will act just like an agency. We will have those reviewed. And then we will select 1, 2, or 4 teams to go forth and you'll get notified. So this is a really important piece in the ARCA newsletter. We support internal funding programs. There are some funding programs, like there's a travel award for faculty that's up to $1,000. There's an equipment repair program. We have had some internal research dollars to give away over the last 1.5 years. Some of those may reappear. We have Bison Arts and Humanities Fund. So all that good information will appear in the ARCA newsletter. We support ideation and teaming. So, you know, NSF, NIH, and a lot of these federal agencies are getting more and more into this large scale, interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, community engaged work. And so the proposals of sort of one person on the proposal, that's kind of a dying art at this point. And so if you're new to campus, you say, I do this, but I need someone who does this, you come to us, we help connect and network you on campus. And then we offer NIH and NSF boot camps. So we are this year going to be doing some NIH boot camps that are in live virtual, but you'll also have access to recordings, archivals, templates, e-workbooks, and things like that. All those announcements will be in the ARCA newsletter, and they will be tied to a faculty development calendar this year out of the gate, where you'll see all of the trainings that we're providing, whether it's research development, tech transfer, budgeting, lobbying, you know, sort of government relations, research integrity and compliance, anything like that. We're going to be consistently pointing you to that calendar. And then proposal document support. So this is one of the things where, you know, you guys are working on the science, but there's all these ancillary documents that are due and they just are proliferating now, right? So the fundamental piece is the biosketch. That seems to be changing every quarter. I don't know if the vets have nothing better to do but sit around and think about what the biosketch should look like. But I have a really quick tip sheet here for you that we talked about at the new faculty orientation. So one of the things out of the gate is if you don't already have an ORCID ID, please get an ORCID ID, right? So you understand how a DOI is tied to a product or a publication. Your ORCID ID is your persistent individual identifier, and it will make creating your science CV easier. So, you know, we can help you with that if you don't have one. Science CV is now required by NSF. It will be required as of January 25th by NIH, and all these other federal agencies are going to be following on. So if you haven't checked out Science CV and you don't have your login yet, let us know. We'll probably be doing some workshops on that, sort of drop-in workshops, virtual, or you can just always email us. LinkedIn. So I just want to mention this because I think people don't necessarily think about LinkedIn when they're thinking about academic, broader impact, or sort of a way to stay connected to what other colleagues at NDSU are doing. But go to LinkedIn, follow the NDSU tech transfer and research accounts. And this way, you know, for you and your own publications and your work and community engagement, it's just a nice place that has sort of become the place, the social media place for academics. And then I'll just mention this really quickly, AI, because we just talked about that. So you are prohibited by the federal agencies from using AI in proposal review. If you get asked to sit on a review committee, you cannot use AI to do a review. You can use AI in generating proposal content. You do have to cite it. I don't know if anyone's using Grammarly or any other sort of editor, but Grammarly, they provide free AI, large language model citations for free for APA and Chicago and MLA and all the other, you know, it's generally, if you're citing that, it's essentially the date, the company, the version, and then the URL. So that's kind of all I have, and I'm going to pass it off.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sheri Anderson. I'm the AVP for Strategic Research Initiatives, which is a fairly new office within the last couple of years. And I'd like to introduce my colleague who's here as well, Cassie Johnson. Her and I have been on a team for quite a number of years, and she's the brains of the operation. But anyway, just a few things that we do. One of the areas that we work in is proposal development support for large-scale initiatives. So if you're working on a proposal that involves multiple organizations, multiple PIs, kind of externally facing, so you have collaborators that are from nonprofit industry, other organizations, other higher ed organizations, we're here to offer support for those. So you don't have to do those alone. We do get into doing helping with a number of the documents that Heidi mentioned, but we also ask that in these instances that we kind of become part of the team. So we typically attend team meetings, so we get the context for what this bigger program or initiative that you're working on. We work with any of your subcontractors, not only on the documents, but also on budget. So we do provide some pretty significant budget support at times to put together these larger, kind of more complicated budgets. So if you are looking at doing that, please feel free to talk to us. We do ask, you know, these large budgets take a long time, or these large projects. So you're looking at months out in terms of engagement and starting to work on those kind of things. And looking for collaborators, as Heidi mentioned, our office can help with that as well. So that's one area. Federal relations, we work with a lobbying firm in Washington. Their name is Lewis Burke Associates. They were here on campus last fall and did some presentations for campus. But what they do, one area that they work in is programmatic requests. So there's opportunities for nonprofit institutions, higher ed institutions to work through a lobbying firm like Lewis Burke, but to look for opportunities to work with agencies. And it's a process of really kind of helping to increase programs within agencies so that NDSU can apply for those dollars. That is one area that we work with Lewis and Burke on, but the other is policy. They also, when they were here last fall, they met with faculty and staff. So when they get to know people, they also look for opportunities that can be on the competitive side, and they'll work individually with faculty, they work with deans. They are here to work with campus, so it's not just our office that is interacting with them. And if you'd like more information on that, please talk to me after. We also do research ideation events. Last year, we held a couple of events, one in January, which was more campus-wide. It was kind of a research community building day. And they're really to bring researchers together from campus, maybe people that have never met before, and look for opportunities in the interdisciplinary space. Another one that was held was in March over spring break, but it had a specific theme to it. It was hacking aging. And both of these events were held in anticipation of further down the list, the EDRF programs. So there were actually funding opportunities available to campus as a result of those events. Our research leadership programs we've also implemented as well. We worked with some outside consultants to do research leadership with cohorts of faculty. And we're looking to continue that again this year. I can't give you an exact date on that, but that is an area that we're looking at too. We want to help faculty to develop the skills and the resources and tools that they need as they become more interested in larger initiatives and leading big teams. So the EDRF program, it's called the Economic Diversification Research Fund. It was appropriated by the North Dakota legislature back in 2023. And what it did was provide funds for the North Dakota University System institutions, primarily North Dakota State University and University of North Dakota. Each of our campuses have received $2.5 million over this biennium to invest in projects and programs that really are more on the economic development, workforce development, translational parts of what university does. So there have been a number of RFPs that have been out on campus, including the University Collaboration Research Program, which was put in place for the institutions, NDSU and UND, to work with other NDUS institutions, as well as the North Dakota tribal colleges on projects. There's been the Translation Acceleration Program, which is about kind of developing prototypes, kind of along that commercialization pipeline, taking projects kind of further down the pipeline. Like I said, developing prototypes, scaling, kind of making them more towards commercialization capabilities. So if you have any questions about that, talk to Zane. What other ones? We've had experiential learning programs. So undergraduate research programs we've invested in. There's a couple of new programs that are currently under review that the deans have put forward. What am I missing?
Yeah. Phase 0.
Oh, the seed programs. So we've had some seed funding for interdisciplinary research, and we will be having one on infrastructure, an RFP coming out within the next couple of weeks. So please keep your eye out for that. That will be with some of these other internal funding programs that Heidi said will be announced altogether. And the other thing that we work on is an undergraduate research program called NDSU Explore. And Dr. Ying Huang, who's in civil and construction environmental engineering, runs that program. She works as undergraduate research director. So she also has some RFPs out and a couple of opportunities during the year for faculty to apply to get some funding for some undergraduate researchers. So, and then we also put on the NDSU Explore event every year during student research days. So there's one day that's undergraduates and there's one day that's graduates. And Matthew Warner's here who works on the graduate side. So please, if you have students, have them participate in that because it gives them an opportunity to present the work they've been doing over the year. Does anyone have questions?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Cindy Graffeo. I'm the Director of Innovation and Economic Development out of RCA. So prior to last summer, the Executive Director of the Research Foundation and my position were one person. NDSU made a concerted effort to invest in corporate relations and the Research Foundation, and they split that into 2 FTEs. So Zane will tell you about his job, but his side of the ledger was very codified, right? Patents, timelines, very concrete. My side of the ledger seemed to be, wouldn't it be nice if someday someone had time to be proactive with industry partners, proactive outreach, community building, ecosystem building. And so that's kind of my side of things. So my office primarily does three things. First and foremost, we work with our economic development ecosystem. We interface with our partners at the Chamber and the EDC and Grand Farm and Folkways and the state level Department of Commerce to make sure that what we're doing is aligning with what our business community ultimately needs, whether it's workforce or training and development, making sure that our partners know what we have and what tools and resources and programs that we could help lighten their load as well. So secondly, I work with industry partners. So if you are working on some research and you say, hey, I need a letter of support from an industry partner, or I have an idea, who do I call at John Deere, Marvin, whoever that is, who do I talk with? So my background, I've been in the Fargo-Moorhead area now for 10 years, and I've worked in economic development. I was the executive director for downtown Fargo, so lots of sponsors, lots of community support. And then prior to that, I was the economic development director over in Moorhead, so just across the bridge. So I do not come from academia. When people say, what do you do for NDSU? I like to talk a lot about how I am the translation point between academia and industry. So I help industry partners also say, hey, we'd like to collaborate on research. We don't know the faculty who do X, Y, Z. So I run over to Heidi's office and I say, who do you know that's working on this, that, or the other thing, so that we can facilitate introductions so that ultimately we're growing research, because we know that as we continue to face enrollment challenges, again, not unique to us, it's a national trend. We know that industry partnerships and collaborations are going to make an even more concerted effort. It's going to be required for NDSU. So I work with industry partners to help them plug in and help our researchers connect with the outside world. And then innovation and entrepreneurial support. So this is everything from attending Startup Brew on Wednesday to making sure that grad students or faculty members who say, hey, I have an idea for a business. How would I get this going? We're friends with, folks over at the EDC, the Women's Business Center. We give you referrals. We help you. I don't have answers when you say, hey, I want to start a business. I don't have answers. I have really good questions. Have you thought about your legal structure? Have you had conversations with the SBDC? Have you started a business plan? Here's the tools and resources that our community has that you can plug into to help your idea move along. So I'm really good at having coffee. So if you ever say, hey, I don't know who to talk to in research, I offer that when I do these kind of talks for industry partners as well. If you don't know where to start and you don't know who to talk to, call me. My contact info is there. And you say, hey, I have coffee. I have an idea. I have a question. Who do I need to talk to? I'm kind of that front porch, that concierge that can help you get connected to the rest of the RCA team or industry outside in our community. So if you don't know where to start with me. And I may not know the answer, but we'll figure it out and we'll get there together. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Morning, I'm Zane Gernhardt. I'm the Executive Director of the NDSU Research Foundation. So the Research Foundation is the office that's charged with technology transfer activity for NDSU. We get the opportunity to work with researchers all across campus who are innovative, who are inventing things in their lab, and to make a determination about how can we protect those things with intellectual property, with the ultimate goal of finding a licensee in the form of a private company that can commercialize those things. At universities, we are typically very, very good and some of the best in the world at doing research. We come up with innovative ideas. We generally don't have the support, the funding, the infrastructure, or the history of doing the development side of R&D, right? The work that's needed to take it from a research finding to a commercial product. And so at every university I'm aware of, they go out, they find a commercialization partner to do that. And so part of that is protecting your innovation with IP. So if you invent something in the course of your research, if your students invent something, have them talk to us. We'll ask you to fill out a disclosure form. It's a fairly simple process describing the invention. We'll then do an assessment. Typically, when we're talking about protecting something with intellectual property, it's things like patents, trademarks, and copyrights. There are other ways that we can protect things depending on the situation. But all of those things I mentioned, they have a lot of legal regulations around them and around what is allowed to be patented, for example, and what's not. And so we're familiar with those criteria. We want to do an assessment initially to determine how could we best protect this? Is it something we could protect? And then is there a business case for doing that? Who do we think would ultimately use this innovation? How would we connect with them? In order to get a license agreement in place. And so we do all of that work. We'll share it with you. Ultimately, if we decide to move forward with, let's say, a patent, we would contract with a patent attorney who would work with us to get that in place. And then we would go out and try to find a commercial licensee. And so typically that could, I said that's a private company, it could be a Fortune 500 company, a very large, multinational organization whose name you might be familiar with, or it might be a graduate student who says, hey, I want to start a company here in Fargo, and I want to take this out and commercialize it under my new company. And so we'll work with them to get that license in place. A license agreement is essentially an agreement between the university and whoever the company is that says you can use our patented technology or a copyrighted work. In exchange for that, you're going to pay us a royalty. So for each sale of a product that uses that, you're going to give us a small percentage back that we can then use to, one, reward the inventors. So under our IP policies at the university, any inventors are entitled to receive a share of 40% of any revenue that comes in for that invention. The rest of that revenue goes back to support work at the university, so the operations and departments at the university. And so we're also happy to work with you if you have questions. We'd rather hear from you early in this process. A lot of times we'll hear from people and they say, I had this idea, I didn't quite think it was ready. I took it to a conference and now, somebody came up to me at the conference and said, oh, this is a really great idea. I hope you patented it. I hope, you protected it. We'd rather talk to you early. And you might be surprised kind of what the threshold is for us to take something and start to look at commercialization, start to think about how we can protect something and be strategic about it versus if you wait too long and it's been presented, that can cause issues with patenting and with other types of protection. So come to us early. We'd love to talk to you. We also do a lot of education and outreach. So we've talked to graduate students, we've talked to summer research students, talked to departments. We're happy to come to your department. We're happy to come talk to your class, your students. Just reach out and let us know. There's 3 people in the office, but if you'd like to engage more, feel free to reach out. My contact information is there and it's on our website as well. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sheri. I'm the Research Integrity, Security, and Compliance Manager at NDSU. I feel like after following these folks, they're the bright, shiny, kind of the tries to fly under the radar thing. We are the regulatory side of when you're trying to get your research up and going. So we support all the required compliance operations from the Institutional Review Board for human subjects research, the Animal Care and Use Committee, biosafety for recombinant DNA work, human blood bodily fluids, and then managing conflicts of interest, which can result from being in research. We also have the export controls and research security office. And so probably the newest function of our office is really in that export control research security. Well, we've had export controls on the NDSU campus for many years. It's now been integrated into our unit. And we've been really working with evolving federal regulations with regards to research security. And so that's been our primary focus. In our office, we have Tandy Molden, who works with the Animal Care and Use Committee and Biosafety Committees, Andrea Ludwig, who's with the IRB and Human Subjects, and Sharon May, who's our Export Control Administrator. Any other kind of regulatory aspects that kind of pop up, we're also there, and everything from unmanned aerial systems to responsible conduct of research training. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to our office.
Hi, I'm Val Kettner. I'm the Associate Vice President for Sponsored Programs here at NDSU. So as Heidi mentioned, they're the pre-award office. Then we call ourselves the pre-award office. So most often, if something starts in Heidi's shop or in Sheri's shop, it ultimately ends up in our shop because we manage the proposal submissions for NDSU. So we support you in that way. We've got an evolution system where you can enter everything in. If you've got a federal submission that's going in, our office will actually do that submission. There are some sponsors that will actually accept submissions directly from the faculty. You still have to follow all the same procedures and policies of the institution. We do have proposal budget review in our office. We get an awful lot of proposals, and so we tell you to submit early and submit often so that we can have a chance to do that proposal budget review. We have 2 individuals in our office that have primary responsibility for that. We don't create your budgets for you from scratch. Many departments actually have individuals within their office that will help you do that. You can submit your budget and get a pre-review done. Our office is happy to look at that and make sure that any of the costs that you've indicated in your budget are allowable. according to the sponsor guidelines or the federal guidelines, help you make sure that you've included proper salary escalation, fringe benefits, and costs. Sponsor programs is the institutional signature for all the proposals and awards. So anytime you see something in your documents that's asking for an AOR signature, that's the authorized organizational representative, and that's our shop. There are 3 of us that have that ability, so we should be able to get everything through fairly quickly. And then on the award side, so even though we're pre-award, once a sponsor accepts your proposal and decides that they want to fund it, that comes to our office. If it comes to you directly, feel free to forward it to our office, and we'll work with that sponsor to negotiate any terms and make sure that it's acceptable for NDSU. And then we'll work with some of these other offices here, like Zane's office, if there's a question on IP, or Christie's office, if there's a question on any sort of compliance review. If you do have an outstanding compliance requirement, sponsors will not fund you until you get that taken care of. So if you hear from Christie's office and say, hey, we've got an outstanding IRB for you, make sure you get that in so that we can move your award forward as quickly as we can. I touched briefly on the electronic research system that we have on campus. It's called Novolution. There are 6 modules in Novolution. 5 of those modules actually are under RCA, and then 1 module is under the Grant Contract Accounting Office for the personnel certification or the effort reporting piece. If you have any questions about any of those, there's contact information on our website. Feel free to reach out to anybody. So the IACUC, IRB, IBC, COI, and sponsored programs, those are the 5 that are under ARCA. So like I mentioned, our office also negotiates all of the awards that are received on campus. And if you have a subaward in your proposal, you're working with another entity like the University of North Dakota, and you need to provide some of your funds to that institution, members on our team will actually draft and negotiate those subawards to those other entities as well. And the final primary piece that we have is the non-financial post-award tasks. So we've got some of our friends from Grant Contract Accounting here. They handle the financial side. Once the award is done, we pass everything off to them, and they take care of your invoicing and the expenditure side of the house. But if you need to rebudget midway through your project, or you need a no-cost extension, you're coming up 3 months before the end date and you just can't possibly get your work done, then you reach out to our office and we'll help you navigate those. And oftentimes we need to make requests of the sponsors. That's done through our shop as well. And the one other thing I forgot is reporting. We do productivity reports for chairs and deans and heads, or if you need information for anything you're putting together about your activities, we can run various reports for you through Novolution and the PeopleSoft side, which is the financial side. This is our contact information. We're out in the Research One building, which is out by the dome. And I believe all of this, Sandra, will be available after the conference. So all the slides will be available. You have all the contact information. If you need to reach actually anybody in ARCA, if you just need to call, it's 231-8045. And when that phone gets answered, they'll be able to put you in touch with actually anybody in ARCA that you need to talk to. Are there any questions, either for sponsor programs or for any other ARCA services units? Anybody have anything else to add here? No, we did a bunch of stuff with
Budget stuff, okay.
Yeah.
I'll just add a few, yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about research compliance. So, I'm in IT. I think, things like IRB, IACUC, these have been around longer, but now we're coming out, like there's NSPM 33, there's NIST requirements. There's becoming a stronger focus on cybersecurity, which of course doesn't just touch animal studies or human studies, but everybody who's using computers. Have you seen an uptick in your office of dealing with compliance issues related to computer technology, IT technology, or not quite?
We do have a working group that's looking at the evolving research security guidelines, of which a part of is cybersecurity. And so we do have representation from IT on that working group, but we continue to monitor the situation. And because there's cybersecurity and research security issues for all research, but then there are areas that are of particular concern. And so kind of targeting an approach depending on what's necessary.
Okay, great, thanks.
I was just gonna few more tidbits as I heard the team talking, and one of was the sort of human subjects, right? So if you're new on campus and you're trying to figure out how to pay participants incentives, he's your person. That's always a challenge. It's always an evolving thing. Campuses are moving away from cash. There's just not enough manpower for all the safes and auditing and stuff like that. And we've moved, I believe, very close to moving to an online system to pay participants. So that would fall on Christie's shop. You know, Val talked about Novolution. So this is the proposal offline. This is not system to system. This is where you go in and you upload all your proposal documents and then get this routed with your chair, your dean and such with the budget information. Same thing on trainings. We're going to be driving people to that RCA faculty development calendar for training. So look for the announcements for Novolution training in that ARCA newsletter. If you were confused about what's the difference between my office and Sheri's office, that's perfectly fine because we are too in some way. So I'm new as of October last year, and they were doing research development and so essentially what we've done is we are more internally focused, like Cindy's saying, having coffee, really understanding what faculty do and what they're working on. But they're also doing research development and large scale proposal development. So we're working closely. A lot of times there'll be a project that comes in, it's, you know, multiple departments or something, and we'll say, are you working on this? Or depending on bandwidth, they might be working on something big and don't have bandwidth. So I would say, you know, don't try to figure out who's the right person, just contact one of us and we'll figure it out along the way. Grant accounting. So, you know, most people know that there's pre-award on this side and there's post-award on this side. We are working closely together to try to align ourselves and communicate better on the life cycle of the award. We should also, they have a lot of new folks on the team. Once they're sort of up to speed, we should be doing some grant life cycle trainings, right? Because when you're new here, you don't know how to buy, you don't know how to hire, you don't know how to procure, all these other things too. So anything else you guys, as we were talking, came up? Yeah. Oh,
Yep,
yeah.
me again. So I'm Sheridan McNeil. I'm the Tribal Partnerships Director under RCA as well. So I'm under RCA, but I primarily work with NDSU. But in regards to Heidi had mentioned like changes in the bio sketches, like all the time, like all these new NSF requirements. If you're not up to date on the new NSF requirements that were effective May 20th, please look at their website, May 20th of this year. And so regarding tribal partnerships, there is a new requirement for tribal partnerships. Our session, Dr. Mackey and I are doing a session right after this one in the Sonish room. We'll talk more about that, but there's a requirement under NSF that you have to have written approval if you're going to submit a proposal to NSF regarding or with partnership with any tribes. So that would include TCUs as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. So I don't know how many of you submit NSF proposals, but check out their PAPG requirements if you're not familiar with the changes that took effect this year.
Is there any faculty who don't know what EB score is, or anyone, no, everyone is familiar with that, came from an EB score jurisdiction or is familiar with I came from a non-EB score jurisdiction, never even heard that term in my life before I came here. And so, you know, I would say that we're also we're planning what is EB score, what does it mean for me, funding opportunities, collaboration session too. So look for that on the faculty development calendar in collaboration with that office. Any last questions? Well, I'll put a plug in for the session that Sheridan and Holly are running about cultural competence and working with tribal colleges and tribal governments and tribal nations after this one. So, okay, I think we're all set. Feel free to reach out to any of us at any point in time. Thanks.